If you're having a problem, then there should be somebody else caring about you to help you. And that's another thing, down a whole nother thing, like pressure from, especially as competitor, pressure from people that are supposed to be your support system.
Exactly.
And you know who I'm talking about, mainly
Yes,
parents.
I do.
But uh, when you have expectations placed on you, and I can speak a lot about this, as like the only person to win spelling bee and geography, I'm expected to be perfect in everything, even if it's something I've never seen before, never learned before. If I make a small mistake, everybody talks about it for like an entire year or two or three or four or five. And it's really frustrating because like I didn't learn that. So how can you put that pressure on me? And you're supposed to be the people that are giving me love and care, but instead you're putting more pressure on me. And I'm not talking about specifically my parents here. I'm talking about anybody
In general,
basically
yeah.
that should be in my support system as like a friend group or friend circle, but is instead like inflicting that upon me. And I used to struggle a lot with that. Um, One thing that really affected me is because I was like so, well known and stuff like that. A lot of people would want to make fun of me for something, but they couldn't because I was so smart. And like I wasn't even just like a nerd, like I would also play football and things like that. And then so they would pick on the only thing that they can pick on, which is my voice, because like it's not deep and normal and whatever. And so they would like people would only pick on that because they couldn't pick on anything else. And for the longest time, I thought I didn't belong on this earth because something was wrong with me, even though I was basically like good at everything else. Just because somebody was pointing out one small wrong thing with me, I thought I don't belong here. I should get out right now.
Absolutely.
Um, but the truth is, things like that can't be controlled. Like I can't do anything to fix my voice. That's just how it is. Things like that can't be controlled. That goes back to being mindful, realizing that paying attention to what you can control and what you can't control, what you can control and what you can't control is always important. And this also goes to like pressure and expectations. You can't control if somebody comes up to you and says, "Hey, you tied to win the spelling bee. You didn't really win it." I can't do anything about that. I'm not going to go and change his entire mindset because I'm too busy with my own things. That's something that I realized. You can't change what other people want to say to you, but you can change how you listen to them. Uh, and so like whenever I have pressure from expectations and things like that, first of all, I think this person doesn't know how it's to be like me. Like one thing that I always say is you really don't know somebody unless you do what they do. And this is why comparing yourself to other people never works, because you can't look at someone and say, "Oh my god, they have such better grades. I'm such a failure." You have to consider what else they do, because you're probably working harder in other aspects that they don't have. And even if you're not, that's okay. Maybe you're just not passionate about getting good grades, which is completely fine. You don't have to get good grades to be successful. The one thing I say, there's so many problems in the world right now that if you do anything that you put your mind to, you can fix anything. And so again, I want to say this because this is really a really important thing for competitors. If you're getting pressured by expectations, first of all, you shouldn't have any expectations except from yourself, because you know what you can achieve best. Nobody else does. I don't care if they've been with you for every second of your life. They don't know who it is to be you, because only you know who it is to be you. Um, and so only you know what expectations and goals are right for you. And people, what they do is they base their goals and expectations off of other people and say that it's theirs. But is it really yours? Do you really think you can achieve that much knowing yourself? And if you want to push yourself, that's fine, but don't overwork yourself. Pushing yourself is okay. That's how we grow and that's how we learn. But overworking yourself is never good, because what happens when you overwork yourself is you break yourself and then you can't do anything.
Exactly.
It's like if you work a car past its like fuel capacity, then it can't drive anymore.
Exactly.
And
Perfect.
you can refuel a car, but you can't refuel a human. Once they're out of juice, that's it.
You're right. That one thing I want to add is you don't have control over what's happening around you. In the end, you only have control over yourself and what you can do. You don't have control over what people say to you, or what happens to you, because that's not that's or for example, you don't have control over what your parents say to you. You have control over yourself, and that's what matters. What you choose to do with that, and you in the end, you know yourself better than anybody else. Like like you said, Mihan, you it's that's just a fact. You've been with yourself the longest. You've had yourself since day one. You've been you gotta be able to live with yourself and accept who you are. Just that's really important.
Yeah. And there's a difference between making other people happy and making yourself sad. It's fine to make other people happy. That's not bad. I'm not saying don't make other people sad, but don't make yourself sad. The thing is, if you can't keep yourself happy, you can't keep anyone happy. Because if you have negative energy within yourself, you can't give off positive energy. Even if you make one person happy, then that's where all your positive energy is going. And so all you have left is negative energy. But if you're full of positive energy, you can give yourself and everybody else positive energy, which is why it's this kind of borderline thing of being a people pleaser and conforming to what other people want you to be. And in that, there's another difference. There's a difference in if you're being forced to do something, like if you don't have a choice.
Are you doing the podcast?
Like
You're doing the podcast?
like something
Sorry.
like a slavery.
Right.
That's not something you can control. That was something that society set you to be, and then you were forced to do that. That's not something you can control. And in that case, that's where you need to rebel, because you know that's wrong. But when you have the choice, then choose to be yourself. In a way, even if what you're doing is harmful, if you think it's right, if you really think it's right, like it's not, if you honestly think it's not causing any harm, even if it's harmful to other people, then you should do it. There are laws and things like that tell you
Yeah.
basic things not to do. I'm not saying if you really want to go burn a house, go burn a house.
Exactly.
Because if you think that's right, then
Seek help.
seek help. Yeah.
Yeah.
But what I'm talking about is things like, for example, when I wanted to do the spelling bee, everybody around me was like, "You're weird, because you want to do the spelling bee. You don't want to like have fun as a kid." And I was like, "Wait, but this is how I have fun."
Exactly.
And then, yeah, but then there's also the other pressure that's like, you only got second. in the regional B. Like, what? I thought you spent all your time doing this. Why didn't you get first? And I'm like, I'm sorry, I didn't know the word. Like, what was I supposed to do? And in that scenario, what you do is you don't be sad, like, oh my God, I'm a failure because this person told me I should have got first. Because when you say that you didn't know the word, you didn't know the word. In geography B, if you didn't know the question, you didn't know the question. In sports, if the ball was too far from you, you couldn't catch it. And you should set those standards reasonably for yourself. If somebody else tells you, hey, Trevor, you should have caught that ball, you're a failure. But you know yourself that ball was uncatchable in those circumstances. Then you shouldn't listen to what that person is saying because they don't know. They weren't there in that moment to catch it. I bet if they tried to catch it, they couldn't. Because if they're telling you that you shouldn't have catched it, they don't know how it is to do whatever you're doing.
Exactly.
And so another thing is that's why it's important to always have a support circle of people that understand what you're doing. That's why whenever you do a competition or something, always make friends with people that do that competition because they truly understand what you're doing. And that's how I found success in spelling and geography. Obviously, preparing for it was a part of it, but being able to support myself with a group of spellers and a group of fellow geographers, and even for rowing, being able to support myself with a team of rowers, that goes a long way. If you have trouble with like having pressure from expectations, one really like key way to deal with that is asking your teammates or people in that other competition, hey, is this reasonable? Was I supposed to get second if I didn't do this? And they will tell you an honest opinion because they know. Somebody that doesn't do what you're doing, that tells you you did something wrong, their opinion isn't really valid because they didn't have that experience. But people that know what you're doing, that tell you you're doing something wrong, especially when they give you constructive feedback of how to fix what you did, that's valid. So in what I just discussed, whenever I say don't listen to other people's like expectations of you, people like fully shut off and become like egotistic and arrogant. But that's not what I'm talking about. I'm saying if somebody just straight up comes to you and said, you're trash kid, like what? Like how? And but if somebody comes up to you and says, hey Trevor, you could have worked on your form there, maybe incline a little bit forward so you can get like a better run, maybe have like a better angle of how you shoot the ball. That's the people that you should listen to because you can actually fix yourself with that and actually feel better with that by doing that. But if somebody is just like, oh my God, you're not finishing this. Oh my God, dude, you're so behind. Like, what does that even mean? Honestly, like when somebody tells you that, like, what does that even tell you to do? Nothing. Like, what are you supposed to do when somebody tells you that? Nothing. Ignore them. Or maybe ask them, how can I do better? And 99% of the time, they'll say, I don't know. And that means their opinion is not valid. But if they have constructive feedback that you think is reasonable, then listen to it because they're trying. Those are the people that care about you and love you and want to make your life better. But there's the people that want to bring you down, that are jealous of your success. And those are the people that will tell you you're trash kid without saying anything else.
Exactly.
And so there's a fine line between expectations and feedback.
Mhm.
Expectations are bad because they're expecting you to do something that you don't believe in. But feedback is good because they're expecting you to do something that you believe in. And so it's all comes boiling down to what you value, what you're passionate about, what you believe in, what you like. It's not about what your mom likes, even though your mom is probably a very good person. It's not about what your sister likes. It's not about what your best friend Billy likes. It's about what you like and what you believe in and what you want to do.
That's valid. That's exactly, you summed it up really well, Nihar. Wow.
Thanks.
Yeah, it is. Expectations from other people. Like, in the end, they're insecure about something. They aren't. They are. If you're doing something, if you're doing something, and if you're getting that negative feedback from people, and people are like, oh, you know what, you did this, huh? I don't like this. You're doing something right, because if you're doing something right, because you're getting other people to feel something, to feel they're jealous, and their jealousy shows that you're succeeding. And one skill is being able to use that, you know, seeing that, oh, you know what, this guy said that, you know what, I'm actually doing well, you know. It's unlucky for him, you know. I'm sorry for you, but I'm just gonna keep moving on. You know, it's and being able to use that, that's a game changer. And yeah.
Yeah, one thing you brought up is like, yeah, like 90% of the time the other person is insecure. And sometimes what I do is when somebody like talks down to me, I'm like, are you okay? Like I genuinely ask that question. And some of the times they're actually not doing okay. And that's that again goes back to checking up on people. Um uh like a lot of the times when somebody hates you, they don't actually hate you. They hate themselves and they see you in that. Sort of like if somebody maybe doesn't have as fit of a body as yours and they're insecure about their body, they see you as that like image of being fit that they want to be. And because they hate themselves for not being that, they hate you for being that. Because they ask the question, why was this guy lucky enough to be like this, but I'm not? But if you sit down and have a conversation with that person, chances are they will like you better. You'll have a new friend and you'll get to help someone achieve their dreams, which is always a nice feeling.
Yeah, one thing I want to say, uh, for before we run out of time, is uh, in the end, we're all here for a reason. And if I'm not gonna offend anybody's religious views, but we're all here for a reason. And what you choose to do on your time of earth on earth is up to you. And just try try to make an impact on the world. Try to make a positive impact on the world, you know? Because in the end, when you're gone, the world is either going to be better with you or better without you, you know? It's going to be, you either made a positive impact or a negative one. And that's up to you, you know? So pick choose the right thing, you know? Be kind. Be kind to yourself, be kind to others, and just be kind, be kind to your family, you know, because they're there for you too.
Yeah. And one thing, especially, I know we talked about this like off the podcast. One thing is a lot of like, I guess, abusive kind of parents are minority parents. And the reason why is because they themselves are stressed. They themselves are stressed about your success because oftentimes they immigrated here or things like that, and they don't want you to be, uh, they don't want you to fall short of the dreams that they had, and so they want to see you be successful. And even when you're like hitting all the right notes, doing all the right things, even if you win like 2 national championships like me, that anxiety and stress is always going to be there. Even if I'm a billionaire neurosurgeon like featured on every TV show, that stress is always going to be there because that has been there for a lifetime. And I think a lot of the thing is we often, when we talk about competitor mental health, we often talk about the competitor, but often the parents, they have a lot of stress and anxiety too. And as competitors, as kids, we often see it as, why the heck are you just yelling at me and screaming at me and doing this? But when you really look inside a parent's brain, it's a lot of love and care. And the way that it gets portrayed is through anxiety and stress. So it ends up being a lot of screaming and yelling. But behind all of that is a wish for you to be and successful and, you know, be bigger than they were, essentially. And part of that comes with they made someone and they want that something or someone to be good, right? Just as if you build a robot or I'm building this podcast or things like that, you always want that to be better than who you were. And so one thing that I often tell like competitors when they complain about their parents is that your parents love you. If some parents don't love their kids, but those are the parents that throw them out of the house, don't give them any food, don't give them any water. Uh, but the parents that give you all those resources are the parents that love you. And because they have that love, if you sit down and talk with them about, hey, I'm working hard and I know you love me, but you doing all those things to me is bringing me down rather than giving me up. So if you could talk with me in this manner and give me like a plan to work towards, then you can show me your love and I won't be offended by it, but it will help me go to greater heights than if you keep bringing me down, even if it's love, because love channeled through a negative fashion is still negative, is still hate. And so if you have that discussion with your parent, and like everybody is like, my parents won't listen to me, but you didn't even try. And I'm 99% sure if you have that meaningful discussion with your parents, they will listen because they love you. The misconception is often that my parents don't love me because they're doing all of this. And it honestly comes down to gratitude. Like there are kids that genuinely have like abuse and things like that. And I'm not saying if you're getting stressed by your parents, it's not like emotional abuse, because that still does exist if you're getting affected by it. But what I'm saying is maybe try to have like, I guess, I'm not saying that you aren't grateful if you're getting hurt by your parents, but kind of realizing that they're giving you all these things and that maybe that they're yelling and things like that are actually love behind all of that hate. Maybe realizing that and talking to them would be better, both for your mental health and their mental health. That's really one thing that I want to clarify. Is like it's a huge misconception that if your parents are constantly telling you like you need to get these grades or I didn't see you at practice this day or things like that, it's a huge misconception that your parents don't love you. But when you really look back at what they did for you, then you realize that they're stressed too. In the end, they're stressed too. And I know it's really hard, especially for us minority kids, to believe that because I don't want to be like racist or anything, but I believe that minority parents are harsher on their kids than that, and partly because this society and stuff is new, and they're kind of like, you don't have time to fail, you don't have the space to fail, because if you do, you're done. And so they have all that stress and anxiety built up, and then by the time it gets to you, it doesn't seem like love, but it is. And again, so like really good advice for competitors struggling relationship with their parents is literally take a day to sit down and talk to them.
Exactly. That's a really good point, because in the end, parents that don't love you wouldn't be taking the time and effort to do all these things. Like, oh, you know what? You should be doing this. You got to do this. They wouldn't be taking that. Takes their time and effort. Setting up study plans for you, or taking you to a certain place for exam or tutoring, or paying for tutoring and lessons. That takes up their time and their money, and they just want to see you succeed. And sometimes it's their dream. They're living their own dream through your shoes, and sometimes it's sadly that happens, especially in the minority community. And my one of my parents is an immigrant from Jamaica, and it's having minority parents it's different. It's different than having, for example, uh average American parents, because there's that pressure to succeed, in that there's that those unwritten rules that you have to succeed, or something's gonna happen. Yeah, you have to be successful, because in the end your parents want you to have a better life than they had. They want you to be more successful, and they really want the best for you. And sometimes they just have a hard time showing that. And just getting to know your parents, and just sitting down with them and having a conversation, just like, mom or dad, I just want to know, how have you been doing? You know, just checking up on them, just getting to know how they really feel. Seeing, just forming a relationship can really be helpful.
Yeah, and sometimes it's like the reaction is too quick to like actually think about all these things, like especially on a really stressed day, like especially for me right after I come home from a workout, and then I get like the basic talk like, you took too long to do your workout, you didn't do this or that. In that time it's hard to like be like, oh, this woman or this man gives me food, water, and shelter, and some kids are living out in the street, dehydrated, starving. It's hard to think of that because your brain's reaction to like all of that noise is immediately to like just go crazy. And I don't think it's possible to really just like control that reaction, just because it's a natural biological chemical reaction thing. Sometimes you don't even want to be mad. It's just that it's just like the physical reaction of hearing screaming in your ears just makes you mad.
Yeah.
And after those moments, what you should do instead of staying mad is saying, whoa, I stepped the line there, and I'm gonna go say sorry, and and like address the things that they were yelling about or telling me about in like a mature manner.
Yeah.
And so that way, like, because I don't know if there's things that can help you do that, but I honestly don't think you can like control that quick of a reaction just because it's biological. Um, but it's, you should never let that stuff go, I guess. Because like if it was a stranger or your friend, you would never like yell back at them, or like be mad at them and then not say anything about it. Like the next day you would immediately say sorry, or give them a gift, or talk to them, and then say like, let's talk about what you were telling me about, and let's come to a solution. And that's the same thing you should do with your parents, because they're even more friends than your friend. They're literally like setting up your life for you, and
Exactly.
they're giving you stuff that keeps you alive.
Exactly.
And so it's hard to think of all this in the moment, like this all, like even like stress and pressure and things, all these seem so like duh when we're talking about like this, but when you're in that moment with all of that, like how it feels for me is like a bunch of needles going off in my head. And like when that goes off, it's just like you can't think about all of these things. But making sure you address it later, like when you have an outlet or things like that. My outlet is exercise too, by the way. Um, Having an outlet like that to address those sorts of things, and talking to your parents or whoever it is that's uh, giving you a hard time, but you can recognize that it's only because of their love for you and not because they genuinely hate you. Doing those things and thinking of those things beforehand helps you much better than if you're sort of to have that reaction and then just like not do anything about it. Again, it's all the same thing, like having a paper cut or even like literally tripping. Like if you trip, you don't just stay, you don't just sit there and like, you get back up. And that so tripping is like when you have that stress or when somebody yells at you and you're like, what the heck? Or when you're getting a lot of this pressure from expectations.
Yeah.
What a lot of people do is that they just sit down and sink into the ground. If there was quicksand. But getting back up is like having that discussion with your parents, recognizing the love that they have for you, realizing that somebody's negative feedback without any constructive whatever, realizing that that's invalid, but realizing that the people that gave you constructive feedback, probably like your parents, are opinions that are valid. That's what is getting up in the mental world. Just as you would get up when you trip in the physical world, in the mental world, having that discussion is getting up. If you don't have that discussion, you're going to slowly sink down into the earth and then you're going to burn in the lava.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. I think we've been recording for 50.
Yeah, I thought I didn't have Zoom Pro, but I guess I do.
Yeah, I was writing that too. I think we recorded enough to have 2 different podcasts.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna do a part 1 and a part 2 because I don't want anybody to listen to like an entire hour.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've touched some good points, bro.
Yeah, we've
Yeah.
basically touched everything in the competitor mental health like
Yeah,
spectrum.
exactly.
The entire
We gotta save some
experience.
stuff. Yeah, we gotta
Yeah,
save some stuff for
save some
more
stuff for the
episodes.
other people. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, do you
Yeah.
have anything else to say or want to discuss?
I just want to say thank you. Thank you so much for having me on this podcast. Yeah, and there should be some links included, right?
Yeah, I'll
Yeah.
include all the links you want me to in the description. Thank you so much, first of all,
Yeah.
for being brave to talk on this podcast. A lot of people are like, I don't want to be canceled. I don't want my parents to find out. And I'm like,
Yeah.
bro, it's your mental health. But I talk to
Exactly.
at least I talk to them in private and try to help them
Yeah.
as much as I can.
Mhm.
But like thank you so much for being on this podcast and also like sharing
Absolutely.
your experiences just because of the
Absolutely.
impact that has. Like I've received a lot of love for my previous episodes from
Mhm.
people of like various competitions, like, oh my god, I never thought about that. And I'm actually using this in my life now and it's helping me manage my stress better. And so yeah, it's just I'm just really grateful that you came on here to share those
Yeah.
experiences
Thank you.
and
I'm grateful
that
to
can
have
help.
this experience.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.
All right. Well,
All right.
we have nothing else.
All right, that
That's
should
it.
be it.
All right.
All right.
Take care,
Thank
Trevor.
you so
See you
much. Take care, man.
tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.
All right.